afternoon. So I will tell what has happened here in ASSI building. New laboratory was established at the end of 2013, and members on the picture taken in 2013 were me, Aigar Sapsit, is Dr. Ilya Peshchenko now. He graduated, he got PhD in 2014, and student, PhD student Inga Britze. During this time there have been visits from Kristina Andreeva from Bulgaria, and her husband Asperu, and Nikolai Bezolov from St. Petersburg. I also have one bachelor student, Jāzep Strutkis, physics bachelor student. So the tasks of the laboratory are to basically do same thing as in Munich, but just smaller scale. To measure stable optical frequencies using a femtosecond frequency comb. We have bought this comb thanks to Photonica project, and this would probably allow to improve optical frequency references such as rubidium, saturation spectroscopy, tellurium, iodine.
It's thallium. It's also could be done.
Yeah, probably thallium. And for 3-perot type interferometers. Then frequency comb, it is bridging microwaves with optical region, so we can compare and see how different radio frequency standards work: GPS, Russian GLONASS, rubidium clock, and one of the applications would be to distribute stable optical frequencies through single mode fiber or over free space. This is interesting for synchronization of telescopes, or to transfer frequency between metrology institutes. Optical frequencies can be counted faster than microwave frequencies, so one can reach same number of precision objects in shorter time. Also, femtosecond laser, it allows to measure pulse propagation and estimate the distance as the pulse has propagated. So it's for laser ranging. And when you do something in the air, you are also interested in atmosphere quality, if it's dusty or if it's smog or cloudy or rainy, how many days during the year. So here is a system for light frequency measurement. Let's start with the left side. On the left is GPS receiver. It gives 1 pulse per second impulse, and is compared with rubidium clock using time interval counter. So one can correct rubidium clock every day, see what is how much it's faster or slower. Rubidium clock output is used to synchronize femtosecond frequency comb repetition rate, and light from the laser is combined on a photodiode, and one can get optical signal, which is again counted using radio frequency counter. Then on the optical side we get 380 terahertz frequency, which we can count with the same precision as we have a radio frequency reference. So we expect 11-12 digits. This is GPS. And on the optical side, one can stabilize laser to rubidium saturation spectroscopy, and also to complete Perot type interferometer. And now I will tell more about every topic. So I will start with GPS, which was on the left side, and it's very interesting because here in the audience we have people who are also recording GPS signals, and I can exchange with some knowledge and learn, because it's new for me, quite new things. So here are cheap, simple receivers which receive L1 frequency only. One is receiver like in a mobile phone, and here is coordinate performance. Antenna is on the roof. This module is on the roof, and in principle coordinate should not change at all. But here we have 100-meter scale, so we see blue is vertical coordinate. It's jumping 50 meters up and down. And then we bought another receiver, and for it data looks more stable, but here it looks suspicious that it's too stable. So conclusion is that every receiver is different, and if you want to compare receivers, then they have probably to be same model, and because they have internal algorithms different. From these receivers we also get 1 pulse per second for rubidium clock calibration. Here is with a new receiver, it's time scale 1 day, 24 hours, and here is 100 nanosecond per vertical division. So approximately 1 microsecond per day rubidium clock reads, and it's similar to what we got with the old receiver, and what we see with GPS, sometimes there are some spikes. They could come from solar activity, but not only. This older receiver, it was receiving both GPS and GLONASS, and probably these two systems, they fight with each other in timing, and there were some days during last year when GLONASS was having wrong offsets uploaded to satellite, so it was not showing correctly by kilometer or so. So far on this timing side, and next is frequency comp. It is probably the most expensive equipment which we bought, was 200,000 euro. It's placed here on the second floor on an office desk, and control electronics is like computer rack. Now we have installed in this room dust filter chamber, and replace this office desk with optical table. In the institute is actually a problem where to put equipment. When I was invited, I was told that there will be clean room in the basement, but probably will not be clean room, so I decided, no, they need to renovate some small space where to put all these new things which we bought. And so on the 5th floor there was like a wooden floor and old desks and old monitors and almost no light, and basically was no renovation since 70s. And then during renovation, this is already at the end of renovation, and here is with laser installed, and happy students. Before they were afraid to come there, they saw everything dirty, dust. And actually biggest problem here is dust in Riga. And you can see dust very easy by laser. Ilya made a sheet of laser light. It's basically two mirrors, and light is bouncing back and forth. And you see a lot of speckles. And it's a problem for lasers. They are losing power, and so we have set up a cabin with a flow box, like used in hospitals, surgery rooms, and airplanes. It can filter 5 digits, so 1 million filter ratio, and this is very important when we assemble ultra-stable laser resonator. If there some dust falls on the mirrors, then you don't get the enhancement factor inside the resonator. And here, yeah, on normal place, after a few months, one can collect a lot of that. So this resonator we also purchased and we characterized it, and now we wrote a manuscript, and I guess Atvars probably already submitting it.
I'm in the process.
It's finished writing, and we get laser line with 1 kilohertz with this laser, and yeah, it's quite impressive. Usually lasers are megahertz line with having, and so we will test everything with rubidium, that we get correct numbers for rubidium transitions, and then we will change to tellurium. Tellurium cells were made last year here. They are put in an oven. Eiger subseed is put in an oven, and then we brought to laser center across Daugava and tested using Verdi laser. It's a green laser, and one can see fluorescence beams inside the tellurium cell. When you look from another side, you shine green laser and you see orange fluorescence from tellurium. And the problem is that tunable laser to do tellurium spectroscopy is in laser center, and we are here with frequency comb, and no, this will take some more years. This tellurium spectroscopy cell will go to Zurich for a positronium precision spectroscopy experiment. It's an experiment where one could check if in antimatter optical transitions are the same as in normal matter, and if one would improve measurement precision 25 times, one would be able to tell if gravitation is the same direction or opposite direction. So it's quite interesting fundamental experiment. Here is laser system, or actually, yeah, it's all system. All positronium system, it can be placed in the basement. It's a radioactive source, sodium-22. It emits positrons, and then positrons are guided through a tube, and when they hit material, they catch electron and make positronium atom, which is neutral, so it will fall in gravitation field. And the idea is to excite positronium 1s level to 2s level. It's the same energy level structure as in hydrogen, which can be calculated very well. And last year, they saw first signal. It was like 30 counts on the peak, and yeah, so there will be publication and also among co-authors, thanks to Photonica project, because I could be there 1 month and help with laser system in 2013. And yeah, this collaboration will continue. Now I'm approaching end of my talk. It's about possibilities at our institute to do some fine machining. One is plastic printer. You can make some like optical mouse, such nice shapes, for example, which you would never make by hand. And then is a small CNC machine for milling wood, plastics, aluminum, and some electronics prototyping and testing things. Then the laser, diode laser and rubidium spectroscopy setup which we bought, it was used for teaching students. Inga Britze was teacher, and she was paid for this teaching because she does not have PhD scholarship, so basically, yeah, she can be financed by some teaching students, teaching activities. Then many young people come and they need some simple projects. One thing is to make some box with sensors, and they could measure temperature, humidity, dust, light, sound level, and recently now we started to measure CO2 level. And CO2 it has some daily variations when traffic starts in there, and also when people come to work. And using 3D printer, one can print nice plastic boxes. Ilya designs this enclosure and then print it, and then it looks like a commercial product. And with this box of sensors, we are participating in Texas Instruments Parnell challenge for measuring air quality. Idea is that you send your data online, and they are plotted online. It's not like government agencies. They have, of course, this monitoring station, but normal person cannot see if air is good or not. It's a secret of the state. And yeah, so it's good that we can monitor and then we can see. Of course, one cannot trust our measurements because they are not calibrated. Then there was an article in summer that in Riga is a lot of benzene pollution, especially in airport area. And benzene is such ring, 6 carbon, 6 hydrogen atoms, and it's carcinogenic. It's also in a cigarette smoke, and maybe also in a smoked Latvian fish. Together with collaboration Riga Technical University and Ventspils Augstskola, we are measuring now device technology to measure benzene in air using 254 nanometer mercury absorption line. And then we had in the conference proceeding. And then during this year we brought several proposals. One was for research at night, one was for teaming, one was for ERAF, and they all were rejected. Now is the hope that maybe proposal with Lund gets funded. It's for also making some stable lasers, applications of stable lasers in medicine, and combine medicine ultrasonic diagnostics together with laser. And ultrasound, it makes acoustic standing wave, which would shift the stable laser frequency by some amount. And in Lund they have developed optical filter using cold crystal at 4 Kelvin, which can let through only this light which is shifted by ultrasound. So one would get high rejection of initial light, which has not interacted with ultrasound. And yeah, thank you. That's all.